Daddies, I am your host, Jake Lucas. We have producer extraordinaire David Greenstein over there. We just briefly had Ted Ramey. Um,
Now you see him, now you don't.
we,
Just like that. Boom. We made him vanish. Yeah.
yeah, I think he's pretty busy in Sharkland over there. I'm sure he'll pop back up. But of course, we have our special guest, the godfather of our pod. Once again, Sir Paul McCaffrey. How you doing, Paulie?
That's good. That's the first time I've been addressed as sir, and I think it's gone straight to my head. Please call me sir from this day forward. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's great. It's great to be here, man. I dig what you guys do over at Humm Daddies, and I'm a long-time U2 fan. I've been listening to them and seeing them live literally for decades, and I'll get into that on the show today. So happy to be here, man.
Right. Thanks for coming. Ted Ramey, good we could snag you down and get on the pod for this. I know you're a big U2 diehard. You're a longtime voice of the Sharks and Earthquakes, Bay Area broadcasting legend. How you doing, Ted?
I'm great, man. I'm excited to be here, and it is not very hard to get me to talk about U2, and which, by the way, these days, because of that one damn South Park episode and Tim Cook's bad idea, everyone hates on U2 way too much, and it drives me insane. And I also think the people who don't like U2, it's a very easy way of them telling you that they don't know what good taste is, because they just like, where's the guitar solos? They're not playing blues-based rock. It's like, oh, you figured that out. Okay, good for you. But yeah, I'm always down to talk some U2 and some Bay Area sports.
Heck
For
yeah,
sure.
man. Yeah.
So Ted, I was talking to Paulie right before this started. Initially, we were saying top 5 albums related to 5 Bay Area teams loosely. You know, it's up to you. So we're gonna go through the first couple albums, I think, kind of quickly. You know, everyone can give their introduction into the band and how they became a fan. So let's start this off. Dave, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
No, you guys go ahead, crush it. I'm going to be quiet here. I'm just going to be a fan of fans.
Nice. All right.
All
I dig
right,
that Niner clock back there. Is that a Niner clock behind you?
That's actually it's Niners stained glass.
Ooh, even better, bro.
I know.
Even better. Where do you
But
get
now
that?
I've set the pedestal so high to find Warriors and Giants. So, we'll see where it comes.
Okay, good luck, dude. I like it. Nice.
The cathedral of the 49ers. I love it. Okay. So let's just get started. I'll start to, get you guys on track here. So our buddy Joe Starkey came up with the idea. Let's list your top favorite U2 albums and kind of put them together with a year and a team for one of our Bay Area, sports squads. So you can do this kind of loosely. You can reference the songs on the album, what was going on in the time of the album, what the album represents to you. We're getting, creative here, and let's do it. So I'll start. My number 5, I'm going to go with, and there's going to be crossover, I'm sure. The Unforgettable Fire. And The Unforgettable Fire, for me, it came out the year I was born in 84. And to me, it follows. It coincides with a Super Bowl team, with a championship team. Some of these albums I don't think are championship albums, but they might be your favorite. This is, I think, worthy of a championship team. And just out of nostalgia, it's a 1984 album. I was born in 84, so I got to go with the 84 Niners for this. There's a lyric in Pride, April 4th. Early morning, April 4th. My birthday's April 4th,
Nice.
1984.
Nice.
So yeah, this one's close to the heart. But yeah, just loosely. I mean, you got Bad on there. Ronnie Lott was a bad MFer on that 84 squad. You got Wire. I mean, they'll take you to the wire. Just an amazing album. Some of you might have it higher, so I'll let you get more in depth on it. But yeah, that's my number 5. So who's next?
Go ahead, Rames. I'll follow. I'll bat third. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, and I'm not for me, I'll give the easy or lazy answer saying ranking U2 albums. I go 1 and 2 is Octune and Joshua Tree. So after that, it gets very, very muddied. So I was kind of looking for parallels between things that I would riff on. And I always go back to Boy, and I'm making that parallel to the 1981 San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is before I was born.
Right.
I was born in 82, but
Okay.
I like to think of that as that's the start of the revolution. And I think you can talk about it with the 49ers and for all of the modernization of Bay Area sports. I like the line, I got big ideas, I'm out of control. And that to me is Bill Walsh and what he was building with Joe Montana and Dwight Clark back in those days. And it ended up spawning the empire. And like I said, in many ways, the standards that we hold Bay Area sports to. So that's going to be what I'm starting off with making that comparison. I hope I didn't steal anybody's, but that was just the one that cried out to me. And it makes a lot of sense, at least to me. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but that's where I'm starting with.
I got big ideas. I'm out of control. That's totally Bill Walsh, man. Great call, Rames. Now, okay, so listening to the first two installments, Jake and then my guy Rames, it's obvious to me that I'm the elder statesman here. I'm like 170, and Abe Lincoln was the president when I was in high school. You know what I mean? I go back a way. So for me, you guys, I was a kid in the 80s, and growing up in the 80s, it's hard to explain this now, but MTV had such a cultural grip on the masses. Like, you would watch MTV like kids watch YouTube now. Like, you would come home from school, let's see what's on MTV, and you would wind up getting turned on to new stuff. So when I was like a sophomore in high school, you know, I had my U2 knowledge at that point in the early 80s I knew I Will Follow. I liked it. I knew Gloria. I liked it. But it's my fifth album. This is the one that really caught and I'm actually bringing props out, dude. I actually have the vinyl. So here's my original copy of Under a Blood Red Sky. You see the cardboard's all worn out. I've had this thing literally since I was 14 years old. So this is the first U2 record I ever bought, and I got turned on to this because every Saturday night on MTV, they would put on a live concert, and they had the U2 at Red Rocks show going, and that's what got a hold of me because I liked the energy that I'm just trying to think back to that time. Like, I loved the energy they played with. I loved how loud Edge's guitar was in the mix, and just the way they were so passionate about their delivery. So this is my number 5. Because this started me on the path. And I will say that I'm going to kind of compare this record also to the 81 Niners in a personal way, because this is the one that started it for me. And kind of like the way 81 was the start of the Niners run through the 80s into the 90s. And always going to be a special record for me. So Under a Blood Red Sky, I thought captured them perfectly for that time. And it's still a meaningful record. I still like to listen to this, man. The Electrico on here is rocking. The New Year's Day Rules. I love the 40. That you got Party Girl on here. So Blood Red Sky is my number 5.
I love it. I know a girl called Party.
Totally. Love that tune. Love that. I know a boy called Trash. Yeah.
Yes, Trash Can.
Oh, yeah.
Trampoline. You know?
Yeah.
This is a shirt I got in Dublin, and I met Bono. It's from some show they did out there. I was studying abroad, and he crossed out every band on here and said the only one left is U2. Circled U2 inside.
That's awesome.
He took a pen to my chest, crossed them out, said nope, and circlled U2.
How long ago was that? How many years ago?
That was 2007. I studied James Joyce at Trinity there in Dublin. Nice. And I went to a record store. It was all Elvis and U2 records.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, Bono's doing a reading with Jeremy Irons at the National Library today. And I was of Yates. And I was like, well, can you point me over there? And I was there with Yates's extended family in a private event with Bono and Jeremy Irons.
Wow.
Met Bono and got his autograph. It was insane.
That is badass.
Yeah. So my number 4, it's a little out there. So I'm a big 90s U2 guy because that's really when I was coming on to them. You know, that's when I discovered them. And so all the 80s stuff I had to kind of research and get a feel for by reading about them in different press clippings and seeing documentaries. But I'm going to go with Zooropa as my number 4. And it's my brother had 2 U2 tapes. He had Joshua Tree and Zooropa randomly. And that was like, those were the first 2 U2 tape cassettes I had. And Zooropa was a lot different than all their stuff in the past. It was very spacey and kind of weird. And so I'm going to compare that to the 21 Giants, who didn't win a World Series. Zooropa's not a World Series championship album, but it's damn good. And those 21 Giants are damn good, but they were weird. Kapler was a weird dude. And, Bono and Babyface, where he's kind of doing that porn whisper, Babyface, that's kind of the Kapler voice. So,
Dude, I got to jump in. Paulie Mack, you used to do the masked Kapler. back in 2021. That was one of my favorite bits that you ever did. Just, Buster, just I would be driving somewhere, Sharks practice, earthquakes, and I would be laughing my ass off every time you did that.
You guys are sitting around talking about you too. Don't you think you should be taking some BP right about now? Is that really? You guys really think you should be talking YouTube?
Bro, I used to break Kapler's balls so profusely every day that it just kind of set us off on a bad start, he and I. But yeah, he was begging for it, dude. I had to give it to him. Somebody had to give it to him. Might as well be me,
Yeah, this is one juicy patty here on.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, what is this? A cilantro? What am I having here?
Yeah.
Sneaky good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Zeropa is sneaky good.
Yeah, nice.
Shoot, Ramey, you're up.
Okay, so again, for fourth, and these aren't definitive rankings of mine beyond number 1 and 2, it's just the parallels. I go to All That You Can't Leave Behind, and I don't love how that album sounds on the record. I think there was a weird thing going on with the way the recordings were happening in the early 2000s where rooms were really dead and they don't capture the sound at all. But for the grand scheme of the band, they had their great era in the 80s. They had their, to me, their incomparable 90s, which I think is, up there with the greatest music that's ever been made in pop culture. And then the 2000s, specifically All That You Can't Leave Behind, was in the aftermath of pop, which many people, it was not at all what they were looking for in a U2 album. More on that later, teaser. But I think when you get into All That You Can't Leave Behind, it was a return for a lot of people to find something they could feel good about with U2. And I make that comparison to the return of the 49ers after winning 4 in the 80s, with Steve Young leading the charge for the 94 and 95 Super Bowl team to where they won their 5th and final Super Bowl. Why didn't Harbaugh give the ball to Gore or have Kaepernick run it in? I can talk longer. Why can't Kyle Shanahan manage a Super Bowl? But this is what I look at, is that was a return to the 49ers retaking their place at the top of the NFL world. And for U2, it kind of made them to a new audience. It reminded everyone, we are the best band in the world. They didn't need to take the application in the first place. They already were. They just kind of reasserted themselves in that place, to which me kicked off a pretty decent run they had. I mean, there's no comparing to the 80s and 90s, but what they did with No Line on the Horizon 2 albums later and How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb after that, there's some really good tracks on both of those that were not met with what people were looking for at the time. But I still think it's some great tracks on that album, a return to bringing the fan base back together, and songs that really took off live as well that I don't think any of us were expecting. Quick sidebar on that. When U2 played then HP Arena back in 2001, the April 20 show, I was there. Both Bono and their longtime tour designer, Willie Williams, regard that as potentially their greatest concert ever. Wow. If you go back on the bootleg, as they're doing the intro to Mysterious Ways, Bono kind of off mic, but you can hear it says to no one, "This is a good show."
Nice.
And so when you hear that kind of confirmation, and when they play Beautiful Day, it felt like I was being lifted off the ground in the stands when Edge is hitting those big chords at the start of the course. So that, to me, that's why All That You Can't Leave Behind has a different feeling for me. And I think it very much correlates to what the 49ers did, is that, kind of reestablishing themselves in the NFL, led by Steve Young.
Yeah, and Edge had the 16 red on, right? The Montana-looking shirt.
He usually wore the 7, but he wore a 16 at those shows. Good 16, call.
Yeah.
Hey, Rames, dude, that's great stuff you just shared right there. The date of that show is 4/20/01?
4/20/01.
Right. I'm going to find it. I'm
pretty sure I was there too.
Nice.
Incredible show.
Great stuff. I love that. So
it was the first time they ever played Stay in North America.
Nice. Damn, dude. Well, that being said, ironically, perfect transition. And Jake, sorry to double up, but it's me and you on this one, dude. I'm going Zeropa on number 4. And I'll tell you why. So, and I'm going to compare this record to, I'm going to say the We Believe Warriors, and I'll explain that. So coming after Octung Baby, which is an undeniable piece of work from that band. I mean, the batch of songs on that record they still sound as fresh today as they did then when the record came out. And it was different. That's a big thing you got to understand. Like, after going through War, Unforgettable Fire, Joshua Tree, I can't tell you guys how big the band was at that point. They were effing massive, biggest band in the world, hands down. And it was kind of a, the Octung Baby step was a step in another direction. And then this was an even bigger step. So to me, the way the Warriors, the 07 We Believe Warriors were like a precursor to Joe Lacob's Warriors. This to me is like a precursor in the next step, which would be pop and that whole direction they were about to take. And so I do feel like there was a little bit of a We Believe vibe. It was a new thing. And just the songs on here, man, there's some really great. I love Zooropa. I love Lemon. I love Stay. Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car. I love that track. And I really love Dirty Day. And then, of course, you got Johnny Cash, dude, on the last track. I mean, and it's a really, if you haven't heard this one, at least download that one song called The Wanderer with Johnny Cash taking vocals with Bono. It's a really, really cool song. And it's Johnny Cash like you'll never hear him anywhere else because it's a very like electronica kind of piece of music he's singing over. But I still like this one a lot, still listen to it. And a sign I think of a really good record is, can it still sound contemporary years later? And it does. This does not sound dated to my ears at all. And just another collection of great songs from U2 and a really kind of different kind of step for them in their growth. So I dig this record right here. Number 4. Yeah.
Can I jump on The Wanderer real quick?
Yeah.
Have you guys heard the version they did? I don't know if it was at a Johnny Cash memorial concert, but they played it live. I don't think they've really ever played it live, but Bono sings it. Edge does a really high falsetto part. Like it's not really out there. I don't even know if there's a good clip of it on YouTube, but I remember back in the days of the when Interference, the forum was still pretty big, getting an MP3 off there. It's really cool to hear them do it live because it's just not something they ever do live. That's a great track though.
Yeah.
Ted, I think it was on a Johnny Cash memorial thing and they did it like a reggae version.
I don't know about that.
Or are you thinking about the one where the Edge does like the wow, 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 wondering?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that's on, but they also did or no, Don't Take Your Guns to Town was the reggae version. That's what
there you go.
Okay.
On the jump.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Quick shout out to PMP Army out there on the chat. You got John Joseph and Dom. I believe Scarlet Fire.
Noemi. Oh, she's the best. These guys are the greatest, man. Give the Humm Daddy some love. We already know and love Ramey without any kind of disputes. But yeah, everybody give Jake and his boys some love. I dig the Humm Daddies, man.
You got my boy Julian Pond on there and some of our guys too. So thanks for coming along, PMP. You guys are the best. Definitely the thing that's kickstarted our pod here. So getting down into the top 3. I'm gonna go with. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people refer to War maybe as the first U2 masterpiece. I mean, Boy was a huge first album, but not commercially huge as far as I know. And then October was a little bit of a sophomore slump Bono like lost the lyrics apparently and then had to write them on the fly. But I love all of it. Don't get me wrong. But War seemed to me like their first absolute epic kind of masterpiece. They're still playing songs from that album now when they tour. A bunch of Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day. So I'm relating that album to the first Warriors championship of my lifetime, not the Rick Barry, but I'd say Boy and October, kind of those first 2 playoff appearances from Steph and Draymond and Clay, and then the breakthrough, would be War, and then you got Sunday Bloody Sunday, just a lot of aggressive stuff on there, which kind of felt like a lot of Draymond energy. You got Two Hearts Beat as One. That's Splash Brothers all day.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm gonna go with number 3. War is a beautiful album, and it's it has war anthems, but also has Take My Hand.
I love that. Yeah, Drowning Man, dude.
Drowning Man.
Love Drowning Man. And shout out to I'm trying to remember. Was it Surrender? Yeah, Surrender. Shout out to Surrender when they got the trumpet jam at the end. Dude.
Yeah.
You don't get that on a lot of U2 records, but you're getting like a kick-ass trumpet jam on Surrender, which I love. I love that one.
And then you got 40 that they still close, shows to. And it's I think it's a masterpiece. It's their first masterpiece in a lot of critics' opinions and probably my opinion. So I'm going to go with that and relating that to the first Curry, Clay, Steve Kerr title.
Rames.
All right, we'll go with me. I'm going to go for my number 3. I am bringing in Pop, and I'm comparing this to the 2018-2019 San Jose Sharks, who fell in the Western Conference Final to St. Louis. And I'm making this comparison because as any good U2 fan knows, a U2 album is never completed. The producers just kind of take it away from Edge. And so U2 got in trouble there. They booked the Pop Mart tour before they had finished the album.
Right.
It was even more not done than what they usually would think with an album. So I think that when you hear a lot of those songs, which absolutely rocked live, I was 14 years old when I saw Pop Mart at Oakland Coliseum in 1997. Oasis was the opening act. By the way, great year for concerts at the Coliseum. A couple months later, I saw Pearl Jam open for the Rolling Stones. So when you're 14 and 15 years old, that's a pretty good run in one summer for one venue. But those songs were incredible live. And I often say going back and seeing U2 on the Pop Mart tour in 1997 changed my life completely, radically. Look, I was already a music head, but it radically changed my view of what music could be live. Seminal moment, whatever you want to call it. That's one of those moments where I'm just like, yep, like I just figured out something new about my reality tonight. And I was flying on that. Like for like a 14-year-old who hadn't dabbled, for lack of a better term, like that was like the high of highs at that point. So to get that kind of an album, which was not complete, but still had incredible structure and incredible high points, it makes me think of that 2019 San Jose Sharks. Now that was the one where they had the great comeback against Vegas, down 3-0. They go on the major and they score 4 goals, take a 4-3 lead, give up the goal with just over a minute remaining, I believe. It goes 4-4. Overtime, Barclay Goodrow from Erik Karlsson scores the game winner, sends the Sharks on a run, but the Sharks got absolutely beaten up and brutalized throughout those playoffs. I mean, Joe Pavelski in that game, he had been banged up as well. Just the entirety of the team. Erik Karlsson was dealing with a groin. Jumbo was already, like 80 years old. Guys were going down left and right. And I think in terms of the San Jose Sharks, that may be, if you look at the personnel, the most talented team they ever had. I mean, it's when you have Evander Kane as like not your number one option, to where, however you feel about him as a person aside, the dude can be the best player on the ice in any game in the NHL back then. You also had Jumbo. You had Kevin LeBanc at his prime. You had Logan Couture. You had Timo Meier. Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson. You still had Mark-Edward Vlasic closer to his best. You had Martin Jones, who was kind of having to turn back to where he was when he got them to the Stanley Cup final in 2016. So you had all this incredible ability, but they got so beat up. And so you never got to see entirely what it could have turned into. I think if they stay healthy, they have a good chance of winning it all. And I actually have a greater argument that first round series between San Jose and Vegas was actually the Stanley Cup final. Nothing taken away from the Blues. They had a great run, great championship. When they were led by a different song by the name of Gloria, that was their song, but not the U2 one. But Pop, I also think that was not what people wanted after Achtung Baby, Passengers, and Zoorope. I know Passengers is not technically, U2, but it's what they were doing in the 90s. People just didn't want that. People wanted the U2 of a previous generation in the 80s. And again, longer storyline there. But if U2 dropped that as their next album, everyone would be saying this is right up there with their greatest work ever. And I think people around the music world would respond to this and say, yes, this is something fresh and invigorating and dangerous, and people would love it. Whereas in 1997, people, I just think, were not in any way, shape, or form ready for that from U2, which led to all the You Can't Leave Behind, because they realized that Bono always wanted to be, he has a competitive streak. He wants to be the biggest and the best. He didn't like how the band was regarded. And I think that flows throughout the rest of those guys. But it changed their direction as well, which that 18-19 run for the Sharks changed their direction. A year later, Joe Pavelski leaves, and it's never quite the same group. And that was the beginning of the end. And I don't think that was the beginning of the end for U2, but it marked the end of the 90s and put them on a different course to where they are today. Those are the parallels that I draw between Pop and the 2018-2019 San Jose Sharks.
Dude, Ramey, you crushed it, dude. You freaking crushed it. And I'll tell you why. Ta-da! Look at my third album. I got it right here. So you basically said a lot of what I was going to say, and I can speak to everything you said, because now, listening, this is an incredible record. This is a freaking incredible piece of work right here. I was one of those guys. Now, listen, when you love a band and you kind of grow up with them like I did, like you're with them as a young kid, then you're in college, then you're a young adult, you're in your 30s, your 40s, you're kind of still with this band. I'm with you, Ted. That's exactly how it was. I was one of those closed-minded fans. I'm like, what is this shit? This isn't U2. I was like, that was my reaction to that. I'm like, this is not U2. This is, I was like, I don't know what they're doing. Bono shaved his head. Edge is wearing a cowboy hat. I don't know what's going on out there. and it just I couldn't identify with them. And it really,
we got fallen background, Paulie.
I knocked my Giants helmet down. Dude, that take was so hot.
Yeah,
I might have to. I have to do the rest of this review. If the Edge can wear a cowboy hat, I can wear a Giants helmet. You know
exactly.
What I mean? So yeah, man, I wasn't having this when it came out. I just wasn't having it. This is no good. Hold on. It's
the Brentley look.
I wasn't feeling that. All right, but now I love this record. So I wasn't ready for it. I would really criticize myself just being too close-minded. Like I've learned you have to give bands room to grow. You have to give them room to try new stuff. If they wanted to, they could release the Joshua Tree every couple of years. They could just use that formula and say, hey, get me Land Wild. Let's get that sound back here. And here's another batch of great songs. And everybody would love it. But instead, they're like, nope, we want to grow. We want to try new things. We want to try some new sounds. So if anybody hasn't heard this record, I would say it was way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time. Like Ramey said perfectly, if it came out today, people would hail it as a modern day classic. So for that reason, I want to kind of compare this album to the Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors, that era, when Joe Lacob famously said, we're light years ahead of the competition. And that's how I kind of feel this record is. It's way ahead of its time. It sounds very contemporary to me. Like there's a lot of techno flavor to this thing. The songs, discotheque, Mofo, which I believe you guys can probably tell me if I'm right on this. I think I've heard Bono say he thinks Mofo are his best lyrics that he's ever written. Yeah. And that the song is basically him having a dialogue with his dead mom who is in heaven. And like, there's a lyric in the middle where he goes, mother, am I still your son? Like he's talking to her, but she's been gone for a long time. So that's a really beautiful tune. I love Gone. I love Playboy. I love Miami. It's just a really good, it's got a dancey almost element. Like you could hear this at a rave party back then. It wouldn't have surprised me. In the late 90s, that was a big thing, rave parties. And if somebody put this record on YouTube Pop at a rave, it would have fit right in. So now I love it. At the time, I wasn't ready for it. I was too small-minded, but now I'm open to it. And another great record from the Dublin Boys right here.
Great choice. My number 2, real shocker, Pop. There's a few more things I can say though. First of all, Ramey, what you're talking about, Passengers, I think that gets slept on a lot as one of their 90s like masterworks. It's a soundtrack for a fake movie, correct?
Yeah.
Slug and Your Blue Room are two of the most beautiful tunes I've ever heard.
Love
in my life.
Your Blue Room.
Your Blue Room is incredible. So I heard them play Your Blue Room, I think for the first time ever in Chicago at Soldier Field.
Wow.
Nice.
During the 360 tour, I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah. And that shit blew my mind, I'll tell you. So yeah, I might have or might not have, been under the influence of something too. So
it happens. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
But more with Pop Mart in Mexico, that DVD or VHS actually at first. I got that as a Christmas present, I believe. It was on my Christmas list as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old, whatever it was. And I could not stop watching that. I think that's maybe what made me fall in love with U2 more than anything, was just watching that concert over and over again. Bono out there with the boxing gear, coming out in Mexico, just in the muscle shirt. And those songs are so good. I think the trick of it was what they're getting at was applying the kind of ridiculousness of pop culture while still writing U2 songs at their core. I mean, these were actual really well-written, really meaningful songs that just had some flash around them. Yeah. And I guess what I wanted to do was compare it to the 93 Giants, who are also maybe my favorite Giants team ever, despite not winning at all.
Yep.
And Pop was up there, arguably my favorite U2 album ever, but my next one, I guess, kind of, takes the cake slightly over it. And a lot of what I wanted to relate to it was Gone and Do You Feel Loved, about Will Clark in his last year and the departure of Will. Because he didn't feel loved. They didn't show him the money. And Pop was kind of meant to be this flashy thing. Signing Barry Bonds was a flashy deal. And it turned out to not be what the ultimate goal was to win a World Series for the Giants. This album opened at 1, but then fell off a cliff, sales-wise. So I think there's a correlation there. But that's all I'll do for Pop because, we've kind of gone over Pop quite a bit.
Let's riff on that 93 Giants team for a second, though, because you had career years. Think about that 3-4-5, Will Clark, Matt Williams, Barry Bonds.
Jesus.
You had Darren Lewis and Royce Clayton having career years. You had Willie McGee still playing in right. I mean, that was such an incredible.
Swift.
Yeah. Burke and Swift were incredible that
Rod
year.
Beck.
Beck was
Mike
the man.
Jackson.
Yeah. That team. And, I remember, I think it was against the Dodgers in like late July when Royce Clayton had that incredible walk-off home run to where everybody was feeling like this is going to be their year. And I remember, they had like a 7-game lead in the final 2 weeks, maybe a 9-game lead, and it all collapsed. And they lost to the Dodgers in that final series. That was brutal. That team, thought that was going to be the year.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it was the last year of Will Clark, and which he had. The rest of his career was fun and fine, but that '93 team, that was a fun team to watch, and they were just. I thought they were going to win it all that year. I mean, they were just so hot until the final 2-3 weeks of the season.
And how about this, you guys? How about the unthinkable thought today in 2025 of a team winning 103 games and going home? Like, it's unthinkable. Teams are going to get in the postseason to win 87 games this year, 88 games. This team won. If you weren't around in 93, everything these guys are saying is spot on. They had MVP talent at multiple places on the field, and they won 103 and went home. There was no wild card back then. You had to win the division title. That's all. That was the only way into the playoffs.
Paulie, I thought you were going to say the unthinkable of the Giants signing a big name free agent. Barry Bonds was their last one.
That's and that's all you get. That's all we're going to get. We're like, we'll get one big one and then nothing for 50 years. That's kind of what we're approaching. So yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Right.
And that was the season that created the wild card, basically, because they're like, we can't have another 103 team go home.
Right.
And also, I believe it was between Robbie Thompson and Will Clark to re-sign, and the team chose Robbie Thompson because he had a career year.
Correct. Which is now you look back at that like
not a great choice.
Yeah. No.
Robbie was pretty good though. I mean, he wasn't a slouch, but Will Clark had the heart and soul thing going on.
Yep.
To which it's hard to overlook, just because every clip I see online of Will Clark telling a story, I just think, can you imagine being that guy's teammate? Just entertainment for days. Because every story he tells is just him being a complete, just red ass being Will Clark, but it's hilarious in the context of like high drama, high stakes professional sports.
Yeah.
Oh man, the way he took on that St. Louis infield will live forever.
He held his own too. He held his own pretty well till the cavalry came. Dude, he's fighting 3 guys at once. Yeah. And I can tell you what, man, Rams, you've probably encountered him a few times too. I mean, getting to know Will Clark over the years and talk to him, I love that guy. He is a no BS, straight ahead kind of old school baseball guy. I love Will the Thrill forever.
No, he is what you think of when you think of a baseball player.
Yep.
True and true.
Absolutely. Yep. And his new clips with Eric Burns are incredible. The guy's even more of a red ass than ever.
Yeah, it's the best.
All right, so we need number 2 for me now, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'm going the Joshua Tree, which I know is sacrilege to some U2 fans. But Joshua Tree, I think when people think of U2, they think of the Joshua Tree because it has the hits, specifically the 1, 2, and 3 of Streets, and then Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and then With or Without You. In terms of a 1, 2, 3 to start an album, I mean, I can talk about Led Zeppelin 2 right there. There's not many other albums that go 1, 2, 3, and you're like, holy Lord, like what a start. Also, the first Led Zeppelin album is another good argument I would put up there. But I think because it has those hits, I was trying to think, what was the other hit maker team? And I go back to the 2016, 2017 Golden State Warriors, of where it was just hit after hit after hit, to where it was Steph, it was KD, it was Klay Thompson, it was Draymond Green. I mean, just bang, 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 hit. You just had the most incredible team, and they went 16-1 in the postseason, and it was just undoubted. And I know people say it was almost unfair once the Warriors got KD, which that's BS. That's not how sports work. Guys sign where they want to sign. But to me, because that Warriors team, it was just hit after hit after hit, star after star after star. I do see those comparisons. And it was so, Joshua Tree to me was the sound of U2 being who they maybe were musically, more of their soul, of where they were going to play this open sound that was all encompassing, of where it created space. It was very much visual music. I know they were going for that soundscape. And to me, when I'm listening to music that really speaks to me, it's not as auditory as it is almost visual. And I don't have synesthesia. I don't put it like that, but I'm like, there's certain stuff I hear that makes my brain light up. And if that makes sense to anybody else out there, cool. You're just as weird as I am. But like when U2 kind of gets away from it, when they just kind of open up and I still haven't found where I'm looking for, like that just, that's visual. That's not auditory. That's, to me, that's lighting up in my brain, not in my ears. And it's a visual thing. And that to me is what U2 was doing so naturally, to where the Warriors, they didn't have to fight to win those games. It was just an overwhelming tidal wave of talent to where it would just wash over you. And that's what Joshua Tree was. It was just kind of no resistance. It was just them at their core, and it just kind of blew over everything that had come a lot of the 80s. That was at the height of a lot of the glam rock and things of that nature, which I, as an older man, like I used to not get glam rock. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, Van Halen might be now one of my top 5 bands of all time. Whereas I was growing up, I was like, oh, it's commercial, it's party music. And now I'm like, this is fucking incredible. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, this is
happens.
I got you. Like, this is amazing music. Yeah. But that was the antithesis of what the 80s were. And I also think it's why people dislike U2, because it's earnest and it's very raw and emotional. But, it's like, it's undeniable. And just like that 2016, 2017 Warriors team, undeniable. You go 16-1 in the postseason. What the hell is that? Like, that's not reality. That's just, so yeah, like, well, that's where I make the comparison. And, Joshua Tree, again, that's the hits. That's what people think of when they think of U2.
Yeah. Nice, Rames. And I can tell you what, I saw, let me see, 1, 2, 3. I think I saw at least 3 shows on the Joshua Tree. Yeah, 3. I saw them 3 times. And I'll tell you what, those shows were, I mean, it's hard to explain like how big it's like. Back then when they would walk into an arena and the lights went down, literally everybody in the building stood the entire show, sang every song. It was like a church revival, man. It was really intense back then on that Joshua Tree tour. Great shows. My number 2 is this bad boy right here. Okay. All You Can't Leave Behind. And I'll tell you why, because Rames you really outlined it beautifully earlier when you were talking about the pop record and how a lot of longtime fans like myself kind of rejected it. I was like, nah, dude, to the point, big regret of my life, you guys. Rames, I had a ticket to go to the pop tour, turned it down. How about that? Turned it down.
Wow.
That tells you like where I was with them at that point. Like I was kind of pissed at them. I really was. I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. And like, there was like a lot of younger fans coming into the scene being like, I'm going, I can't wait. I'm like, yeah, you guys don't even know what's going on, man. That's not U2. I saw the real U2, blah, 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 up on my high and righteous horse. Now, dude, I'm kicking my own ass for not going to that show. I really, really wish, but I did come back on board for this tour, and I went to go see a show. It was like, it was later in the tour. It was like second leg, maybe third leg. They were playing the, of all places, the Thomas and Mack Center at UNLV, which is the gym where their basketball team plays. I'm saying it's maybe 12,000 seats. It's a really small building. I got in, had great seats, and that show on this tour blew my doors off. I was like, well, there it is. That's U2 is back. Like, and it really was kind of a return to form. The guitar was turned up a lot louder in the mix. Your points about the production are good, Rames. I agree. Kind of that dead sound, but the songs are just, they're undeniable. I mean, they're freaking. Dude, how about this, Rames? Here you go. I'll give you a top 3 coming out of a record on side 1. How's this sound? Beautiful freaking Day, Stuck in a Moment, Elevation. Bam, bam, bam. There's a triple shot of greatness, and it continues. It keeps going. Kite. Walk On. You know what I mean? In a little while. Wild Honey. These are phenomenal. I love the song New York. I love the song Grace. Really, really great record. And again, like my memories of seeing this tour it kind of renewed my love affair with them. After kind of being out of the scene for a while, seeing them again on that tour, I was like, that's it. This is the band I fell in love with. And those shows were so good. Anybody here see any shows on that tour?
Yeah, I saw 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 or 3, actually.
You got the HP one you mentioned. Yeah, that's right.
HP in Oakland. They played in Oakland on the.
They came back in Oakland, and no doubt was the opening act.
Yep.
I believe PJ Harvey in the first leg was who I saw for them as the opening act. But I want to riff on Stuck in a Moment, because I think the album version is not great, and even live when they pulled full band, still not that great. But when Bono and Edge were doing a little tour, they would play some just versions of the two of them, Edge on guitar and Bono just singing. If you go to YouTube and you search Stuck in a Moment live Letterman, the two of them do a version that it makes you think like, man, if they had released that would have been regarded like one. Like it would have been just an incredible song. And you can see Letterman during the tape. Letterman me and him have a lot of musical carryover. He loves U2, loves Jenny Lewis, loves Ryan Adams, and used to have them on all the time. And you can see Letterman at the end, like he's emotional when he's like trying to it's like that was incredible because he realized he just saw something special. So if any of you haven't seen it, and it was actually a song I've shown people when they say they don't like U2, I'm like, check this out. And they're like, actually, that's an incredible performance because Bono's voice is just miraculous, like it usually is. And, Edge, when he does his falsetto part in comparison to what Bono's doing at the end there and just all of it, it's a great performance. Yeah, there's, again, like I love songs off that record. A lot of the recordings just, they don't quite capture it, but the quality of the songwriting is so high that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, or you can, to your point, Rames, if you listen to the, I guess the reissue of that record where they attached, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music. They attached that live show from Boston on the deluxe package. That's a great way to hear that material because it's live on stage. It's full of heart and passion. And it's a great point you make. When Bono and the Edge do those kind of duets together, they've done that with Stay. There's a few of those songs, where they'll just go out to the tip of the stage and perform acoustically like that. And that's one other thing I would say. Bono, everyone, it's like fashionable to break the guy's balls now. Like people just, they don't even know why they're doing it. It's kind of a trend. It's like, oh yeah, U2 sucks. That's right. They must suck. Yeah, I don't like them either. The funny thing is, at one time they were regarded as like the saviors of rock and roll. They really were. Like in the 80s, they were regarded as, oh my God, these guys are going to be like the Clash and Bob Dylan and the Stones. In a lot of ways, they are. They really are. But after all their different experimental stuff, they kind of lost that credibility. I don't give a shit, but it's the masses. You know what I mean? It's the way the masses look at them. But to what Rames was saying, Bono does not get the credit for being an incredible vocalist. The guy's a really, really great singer and incredible gift for melody. Like when he's writing songs with the Edge, the melodies this guy comes up with are as good as the Beatles. They really are. So I'm just giving him some love because he doesn't get the love anymore and he deserves it. So great points, Rames. And I guess it's up to you. You're up, Jake. Yeah.
Well, I just to second what you guys are saying about the acoustic performances on Jimmy Fallon, I think it was, they did Ordinary Love. That was kind of a stripped down acoustic thing. You had Will Smith on the couch there,
nice,
which was random, but it's a beautiful version. Bono's just floating on it. The vocals are top notch. That's one to check out. It's on YouTube. And another thing about the version of Elevation on the album, I didn't like at all. But funny enough, Laura, what was it? Tomb Raider. The version they did for the soundtrack of that was way better. I mean, the movie I didn't see. Whatever, it was like Angelina Jolie in a video game movie. But that's what the music video came out with, that version. That was a lot better.
They turned the guitar solo up in the mix, and that was what they played live. On live. That was essentially the version. And when they walked out on that tour, it was to the Elevation remix that also came out on the single that I think was played over the credits music in that film. And that weird, like it's got like a flute in the remix of Elevation. That's what they came out to. It's like,
what's funny? I think that was a Target.
U2 and no other rock and roll that I can think of.
I think I remember going into a Target. It was like a Target only 4-song Elevation EP or something.
Nice.
It was. They had some bizarre releases with some really good stuff on it that you can only get at a Target or whatever at that point. So yeah, I'm gonna go into my number one. It's I think it's prevalent right now because I'm still thinking about the Sphere. I know Paulie just saw the Dead at the Sphere. But the U2 show at the Sphere blew my goddamn mind. I listened to Octung Baby leading up to it the entire time. And it took over as my favorite U2 album. I'd always loved it, but I know every breath to every lyric of every song on that album. And I just couldn't get enough of it. And live at that show, Bono's voice sounded as good as ever, which was incredible. The guy is 65 now? And it was mind blowing. But I think it annoyed a lot of people, including my wife, because there's a lot of people just going there to see the Sphere, and I was just singing my heart out to every lyric of every song.
Screw them.
But so I'm going to compare that album, since it's kind of my wheelhouse. Early 90s is when I got into everything. That's what kind of resonates with you as you get older. That era of life when you're kind of a tween or around that period. The 94 Niners are my go-to team, my favorite, probably team in general in sports, except for the 93 Giants. They're neck and neck. But 94 Niners, Achtung Baby, I'm going to say a lot of the thematic stuff, which was about Edge's divorce at the time. I want to, kind of draw a parallel to that and Joe Montana looking at them from afar. As in, you're so cruel. Like, he still really thinks he should have that Super Bowl and maybe another one.
Yeah.
And So Cruel is maybe my favorite U2 song ever. I mean, there's a lot of favorites.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, and I couldn't believe they were doing that live at the Sphere because they had never done that. I mean, I think The Edge kind of did like a solo version of that for YouTube once. But he's not on the actual track itself. Love Is Blindness is just an incredible song with an incredible solo, and it shows you how Edge kind of perfects. He believes in not wasting notes. He can't play like Jimmy Page, so he uses his delay or whatever effects he has, but he uses them so masterfully to create just amazing tones and soundscapes and vibes, and this that Love Is Blindness captures that, I think, perfectly. And even better than The Real Thing. I mean, they had Deion Sanders, Ken Norton Jr., Jerry Rice, Ricky Waters. That 94 Niners team was even better than The Real Thing. They were so loaded, it was ridiculous. And that is my number one. I'm an Achtung Baby head.
Awesome.
And I have this Achtung Baby tour shirt.
Nice. Oh yeah, dude, I remember those. Yeah, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I wore that to the show at the Sphere, and one of the best experiences of my life.
Nice, man. Nice.
So I'm gonna continue on this theme, and I also saw it at the Sphere because when Achtung Baby came out, I was 9. I wasn't going to big rock and roll shows, so I never got to see it. But the Pop VHS, the Pop Mart VHS, and the Zoo TV Live in Sydney VHS, I wore those MFers out. I mean, just over and over and over and over. And I'd seen them play a lot of those songs live, but before Sphere, I was like, I'm never going to see them play Acrobat live, because when they did play it a couple tours ago, it always contrasted with Quake's dates, so I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, no.
And then, because I think they were playing it on not the 2015 tour, but the one that was a couple years later.
Correct.
But they were doing
18,
it. And I was,
2018.
Yeah. I was like, I'm never going to see Love Is Blindness live. So when they announced Sphere, I got tickets immediately. And I also wanted my kids to see U2 before it ended. So I got tickets. Me, my wife, my 2 kids. And so, they're at the time, this is 2 years ago, so they are almost 10 and almost 8.
Okay.
And so they're the only kids at the show. This is a Thursday night in Las Vegas.
Right.
And they're walking through the Sphere, looking at all this stuff. They've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And this guy who's, probably a little bit older than me, but not much, walks up to us out of nowhere, stops the 4 of us, looks at my kids and goes, "Do you guys know how cool your parents are for taking you to this?"
There you go.
And I was like, we didn't pay him to say that. I was like, we pulled you
Remember
out of
that,
school.
kid. Yeah.
We pulled you out of school for this.
Yeah.
Sidebar on that, my wife and I actually got engaged on the way to the U2 show at 360 in Rose Bowl, at the Rose Bowl in 2009, which we that's the first show that was ever streamed on YouTube, first big concert, and they turned it into a DVD. So our engagement was memorialized by that show. That's how we like to view it. But that Sphere show, because I have always been all about, Achtung Baby I think that's just, for me, my opinion alone, I think it's the greatest album ever made. And I also compare that to the 1989 49ers, the greatest football team that has ever existed. And I think when you look, and I know people make the comparisons about the 84-85 team because they were so good, but if you look at the roster that 49ers team had, their number 1 quarterback is Joe Montana, Hall of Famer. The number 2 quarterback is Steve Young, Hall of Famer. You look at the running backs, they had Roger Craig and Tom Rathman. They had Jerry Rice and John Taylor, the wide receivers. They had Brent Jones as your tight end. Your offense lineman, you had Jesse Sapolu, Guy McIntyre, Steve Wallace, Bubba Paris, Harris Barton. And then you get, going into the defense, you start talking about Bill Romanowski. You start talking about, just incredible players. Charles Haley was there, right?
Ronnie
you start talking about Ronnie Lott, Mike Kofer, an underrated kicker. And then, of course, it's at that change of where you've gone, after Bill Walsh to George Seifert, but still, in my opinion, that's about as good as it can get. And I think there's still a lot of tension at that point, because I think a lot of people had seen what Steve Young could do. And, Joe Montana had already been dealing with some injuries at that point of his career. And I often look at that creative tension and what it bore for all those guys being at the peak of their abilities. And that, what they did to the Broncos was just not fair. And, you know, my dad was the 49ers PA announcer for, 20 plus years. And he often talks about that team. Said you would go to practice, and he said this because everybody uses it now. They don't know what it came from. He's like, but they would talk about those 49er practices back then in that era when the ball wouldn't hit the ground.
Yeah.
And that was the end. Yes, a year later, there's the fumble, and they don't get a chance to do the three-peat, which was devastating. And then the year after that, they miss out on the playoffs despite having a 10-win season. And much like the 103-win Giants team, like you're not going to win that many games in the modern NFL and not make the playoffs, I feel. When they finally, missed it for the first time in ever. But that to me was just the culmination of the entirety of that era. And for you two, this is where it gets a little bit muddy because it's not the culmination of that era. They had, they finished those shows at Point Depot. We're going to go away and dream it all up again. And they did. They came back with the sound of four men chopping down the Joshua Tree, as Bono stated, which actually, I do think there's more musical parallels between Octoon Baby and Joshua Tree than people realize. I think Zooropa and Pop are way more the sound of you two cutting down the Joshua Tree. But that album, it's high quality, but it's very influenced by Bowie. There's a lot of tension going on. There is a lot of creative, just genius, but there's also, you can hear the tension in those recordings. Like that's not you two's, that's not what comes naturally to them. They are doing things that are far different than what they had done before. And so to see those things, like that's, again, it's a band challenging themselves, which I don't think happens enough because everything's so corporatized. People want to see the same thing over and over and over. And for them to come out with that album at that point in time, also to me, what they were doing in terms of postmodernism, everything was Zoo TV and the Mirrorball Man, Mr. Macfisto, all the things Bono was doing on that tour and how U2 was presenting mass media and talking about, in a way, I think somebody told them what the internet was. They just thought it was going to be with satellites. And so they were doing that whole thing. But, prank calling, the White House all the time. It's, that stuff is, that's ahead of its time. And everything that wrapped up in that era, I just think is about as good as it can get. And again, that 1989 49ers team, that's about as good as you can possibly get in any sports team. And, that's a longer discussion, but it's hard to argue with either the 89 49ers or Octoon Baby.
Dude, Rames, fantastic. And let me tell you this, I second that. I think the 89 Niners are the best Niner team I've ever seen too. Maybe the best football team I've ever seen. A lot of people like the 84 Niners because they went 15-1, almost went 16-0. I actually think the 89 team was better because of all the points. I mean, they demolished teams in the playoffs. They blew the Vikings through the NFC Championship. They beat the Rams 30-3. Okay. Then they go to the Super Bowl. They just put the Broncos over their knee, dude. 55-10. Biggest blowout in Super Bowl history. And again, I agree with all that. I think that was the best Niner team I've ever seen.
Who's gonna ride your wild horses?
Oh, dude.
Broncos parallel there.
Nice. Yeah. Good. It took me a second. I'm like, let me think. Yeah, good. So, all right, boys, listen, I'm going to wrap this up, but I've been known to bend the rules. You know what I mean? I've been known to ignore the rules, if not entirely. So I got to go 1A and 1B for my top spot. And again, why not make it a complete 3-game sweep? I got Octoon Baby right here. The three of us. I mean, it's just, but you know what? It speaks to the undeniable piece of work that it is. And Rames, your points are great. It's a dark record. It was darker than anything they had done. There was a different feeling, you would get when you heard this. And I was fascinated when this thing came out. I'm like, wow, this is really wild. This is a really interesting record. And they still go to it a lot on stage. I mean, like, The Fly, Mysterious Ways, Zoo Station. I love Zoo Station. There's just, one of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jake, even better than The Real Thing. That's a song that I love a lot. Now, the thing that was weird, I did see this tour. I can tell you, I didn't get the full effect though. I saw this tour. I saw the Zoo TV tour at Giant Stadium in 92. Public Enemy opening, which was really cool. And but the problem I had was, maybe it wasn't a problem, maybe it depends on how you look at it, but my seats were on the side of the stage. So I did not get the effect. I did not get later on in the gig, I left my seat and I went out to the front to just see what it all felt like. But I really can't speak to the overwhelming effect it had. I had friends at that show that were in front of the stage. They raved about it. They were like, dude, that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, where there were, if you're not familiar with the tour, they had basically stacks of different screens on stage, all showing different kind of programming, and they would be scrolling messages throughout the show. really subversive, wild stuff, would just be scrolling these different kind of catchphrases. But for the piece of work that it is, it's just, I mean, listen, if you like great music, this is just something you should check out. I think a lot of people know the songs already, but if you're like a newcomer to U2, you're going to definitely want to spend some time with this album. I mean, it'll definitely work for you. And you guys both talked about Acrobat, seeing the song Acrobat. I felt the same way. Not a song I'd ever thought I would see. And when Bono brought back McPhisto on that last tour, for me, that was a big deal because I had never seen it. When I saw the U2 Zoo TV tour, he wasn't doing that yet. So I didn't get that care. And when I watch him do that, I always think, dude, Bono would be, and I'm serious about this, I think he would be great on a Broadway stage. Like if he ever wanted to just do a run of shows, some play in New York City on Broadway, he could definitely do it, because when he's doing McPhisto, which is basically the devil, I mean, he's playing Satan, he's so convincing at that it just tells me this guy's he could easily be an actor if he wanted to. And the last time I saw him do that, Rames, when you had the Sharks conflict, I saw that tour, the 2018 tour, I saw it at HP. I'll never forget this. He said, while he was in the McPhisto character, right before Acrobat started, he goes, a lot of people, and I won't do the voice, but he assumed that voice. He was like, a lot of people kind of forgot about me. And he goes, when you forget about me, that's when I do my best work. And he's speaking as the devil. And at that time, and at this time today, by the way, bring it back, dude. Bono, we need McPhisto again, because I don't know what's going on out here. It's mayhem. So somebody put the wheels back on. So that's 1B. And then 1A, this one hasn't been selected, I don't think, maybe you did, Jake, for your 5, but I'm going number 1, Unforgettable Fire. This is the big one for me. It's the first time I saw the band live was this tour. And I mean, I remember the single coming out, Pride in the Name of Love. It was getting heavy radio play. And I can tell you guys, I was a sophomore in high school, went to this show, had no idea what I was walking into, because at that point, U2 on stage was just 4 dudes, their gear, and nothing. There was no backdrop. There was a very basic light show. It was like a bare stage. They presented themselves like the Clash would have, or like Springsteen and the E Street Band, where there really is no show. It's just the music. That's all you're getting. But I had never seen an arena sold completely around, including behind the stage. I had never seen that. The seats behind the stage were packed. It was a total sellout, and they played with such ferocity on this tour. Like, I wish they would release a live show from this tour. I don't think they ever have done that, but I really wish they would, because the performances were so passionate. And this is when they took the step into the big time. They went from being like a theater band to an arena band, and eventually a stadium band. But this was their first go around selling out arenas. The band Lone Justice opened. I remember, if you've ever heard of them. And one thing I'll never forget about this, before they came on stage, the house lights went dim, and I was sitting up high enough that I could see the stage. They had the colors of the Irish flag projected on the stage. So you had like green, white, orange, and that's all. It was just a bare stage. Lights were out, and they were playing over the PA system. They played Stand By Me, the John Lennon version of Stand By Me, loud as hell. So all you were getting for like 2 or 3 minutes in the dark was Stand By Me by John Lennon. And then the band walked on. They opened with Gloria, and the place exploded. The place freaking exploded. I can't stress that enough. The place was going apeshit, and I had never seen that. I'd been to a lot of shows already as a young kid, but I never saw an audience react like that. And last thing I would say about this record, which is kind of the feather in the cap, is that it's a really unusual sounding album. Very, like Rames was saying, big sounds, open space. And Miles Davis, legendary Miles Davis, he said he loved this album.
Yeah.
So, dude, if Miles is giving someone a compliment, you've done something right, because he was a notoriously cranky guy, one of the greatest musicians of all time. But, the fact that he loved this album, to me, kind of validated it in ways even critics can't. So, number 1, dude, I got to go with this, and I'll compare it to the 2010 Giants, because for me, seeing them for the first time, it was them on the big stage for the first time, selling out arenas, and the Giants in 2010. The first World Series. There's always something to the first one. It always feels different. The same way the Warriors' first title, even though they won in 75, for all of us, the first one was in 2014-15, Giants in 2010. It's just an unforgettable experience, no pun. And that's why I kind of would associate this with that first Giants World Series team. So There you go, kids. I think we did the Lord's work. What can I tell you?
I got to jump in, Paulie, on you real quick.
Yeah.
So you talked about Bono as Macfisto being a Broadway type of thing. So I saw that movie Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
And everybody raves about this scene where he's like dancing to nothing. I'm like, he's doing Mr. Macfisto, like to a T. I would say he stole it. And I think that movie's very overrated. I thought it was very deep for a 14-year-old type movie. It was fine. I was entertained, but I was watching it. I was like, they're raving about this. It's like, this is Mr. Macfisto. He literally stole it.
I got to watch that again with that in mind. That's a great call. You talk about like when he's coming down the stairs?
No, it's like I think it's after he shoots those guys on the subway. He like dances alone. And he's doing like this stuff.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
that's Macfisto. I'm like, what?
Probably, dude. It wouldn't surprise me. Probably.
Also, guys, he did the one man show on the book tour for Songs of Surrender.
How was that? I didn't get to see that. Did you
Yeah,
guys?
I saw it in the city. It was amazing.
On it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a movie on Apple TV. I saw it in the city with my wife. We were like, it was a small theater that the one they used to have Wicked in. I forgot what's the name of that one. I don't know, but I was very close and it was surreal. Just Bono in a one-man show in I think 1,200 person theater.
Hey, boys, what is the status? And I have to admit to you that I have not been kind of keeping up with the U2 news of the day. I am like waiting for their next album, so I don't know what's going on with them, but I know they're recording is apparently. And I'm going to predict, unless you guys know otherwise, my prediction is this next album is going to be a kind of a return to form kind of thing is my guess. Like, I think you're going to hear the Edge's guitar a lot more prominently, kind of like Although You Can't Leave Behind, the way it kind of reestablished them. I feel like they know that they need to deliver something big, and they usually do when people are like dismissing them or counting them out. I think the next one's going to be a big one. Do you guys have any updates as to when we might get something new? Because I'm kind of out of it in that way.
It's been delayed multiple times of the timeline. The most recent update they said was fall of 26.
Wow.
But like before it was fall of 25, and before it was like fall of 24. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, it also everything with Larry and the back surgery and that he wasn't playing with him at the Sphere. Like I think that also screwed things up.
Yeah.
So I think they've been very patient and waiting for Larry to get back. But I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that you got to wait and see whenever it happens. At this point, like I always tell people when they're talking about the artists they love, and I'm like, guys, if you got 2 or 3 great records from an artist, like that's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame type stuff. Like if you get 2 decades, like you're one of the great acts of all time. Like when you start talking about the bands that have staying power, it's Bob Dylan, it's Bruce Springsteen, it's the Rolling Stones, it's U2. I mean, listen, it's not like the Beatles had like a long run. They barely made it a decade, not even. They did all that in like 9 years.
Right.
And like it doesn't last. And like for U2 to have creative outputs that started in the late 70s and we're still winning Grammys in the mid 2000s. I also think No Line on the Horizon, again, just not the album people wanted.
Yeah.
I think it's a really solid album, but it's not, people, like, it's hard. Like, even if we get another U2 album at all, I'll be happy, but my expectations aren't high because it's like, yeah, they're in their 60s. What do they have left to prove?
Well, you know what else happens, you guys? It's because of the period of time that we're living in right now where it's beyond instant gratification. It's like, I'll give this thing 20 seconds. If I don't like it, I'm out of here. That's not me, but that's a lot of people now. Like that's you get on Spotify, you listen for 10 seconds, I don't like this. And then you never hear it again. I think that people, they don't know how to appreciate like a full album anymore. When you would actually come home with it, sit down, listen to it, flip the thing over, listen to the other side. It was like an occasion. Dude, I wish you guys were around back then because, dude, Jake, check this out. David, say back in when The Unforgettable Fire came out, shit like this used to go on to be like, dude, I have the new U2 record. Come over after school. We're going to check it out. So you'd have like 5 or 6 dudes over your house just sitting there listening to the album, then flipping it over, then talking about it. Like something like that, I don't think is ever going to happen again today with young kids because they just don't, they go in other directions. They got YouTube, they got games, they're gaming and all that. So it's a different time, but I still think that they want to remain relevant in the way that we're not a nostalgia act. We're not going out and doing a greatest hits tour. Like, here's our new stuff. This is what we're doing now. I think that's still important to those dudes. So whatever they come up with, I'm eager to check it out whenever it comes.
Yeah. I would also, on the Octoon discussion, have you guys seen the From the Sky Down documentary?
Yeah. You know what? It was like it came out a few years ago. Yeah.
It came out in like 2011 for the 20th anniversary, but that's really cool because it just, gets into all of their songwriting process. And one of the cool things, Bono, is like a lot of artists don't take you inside their process. And he talks about how he says, I was thinking about, being dirty, and what's dirty is garbage. He's like, and garbage is down in the gutter, and that's where the flies are hanging around. Nice. And like watching him like break that down to where he got to that lyrical mindset of how he was going to write that song. Like those are the type of insights you rarely get. Like I'm a huge Bob Dylan guy. He's always like, just came out. He won't say anything. He's like, Bob, give me something. And like Bruce is so modest. He's like, like he doesn't want to get into it, even though like he's incredible. Yeah. He just wants to smile and do an interview. Yeah. Like Bono would actually in this thing talk about the writing process. And I was like, this is cool. So for anybody who wants to hear, this act, the talk about how they created these songs amidst the band always breaking up, like that's a really cool documentary. It used to be like $3 on YouTube. I think it's free right now, but From the Sky Down, I highly recommend that. And then Unforgettable Fire, Paulie, when they did the 20th anniversary of that had a really cool DVD extra, which showed Bono behind the scenes recording those tracks. And like, that's when his 80s voice is at the peak. Yeah. He does some stuff there. I'm like, Bono, Freddie Mercury, and not many other people. Like that's that can do that.
Boys, thank you, Ted, for you just triggered a memory. I wanted to say one thing about this in case you guys are the kind of guys that probably already know this, but for the people that don't, it's pretty cool. So last thing, and then I actually got a book because I got to get on the road. But so this album right here, famously produced by Daniel Lanois, who worked with Bowie and a whole bunch of other people. Yeah. Are you guys aware of the whole story about the drum intro to Sort of a Homecoming and Elvis Presley in America? Do you guys know about this?
It's like half sped. Yeah, they sped it up. Yeah.
It's crazy. So Rames, the drum intro to Sort of a Homecoming that starts the whole album. When you listen to the song on side 2 later in the record called Elvis Presley in America, it's the same drum track slowed down to like half speed that Bono sings over.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, it is. And that's just like another little flavor of that record. So when you hear the Elvis Presley song, it's like, I
never even thought of that.
Yep. Check it out. Listen to them side by side. You'll hear it plain as day. So it's just the Sort of a Homecoming drum track slowed down as the drum track in Elvis Presley in America. It's pretty cool.
And Bono's just improvising that entire
singing his ass off too. Yeah. Singing from his soul in that song. Absolutely. It's great stuff. Boys, thank you for having me. This was fun.
This was awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for making time for us and for you two and for Bay Area sports, as you always do, and we all know it. But this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Cheers, boys. Let's do it again. Let me know when the next one is. I'll be here.
Absolutely. Ted Ramey, Paulie Mac, thank you. This was a Humm Daddy's podcast. Check us out on YouTube and every platform. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Peace. Y'all.